so much for joining me today. Just those couple announcements really quickly. If you don't mind staying muted for the entire lecture, that'd be greatly appreciated. At the end, I will be opening up the floor to questions. If anything comes up as we are moving along, feel free to pop it in the chat box. I will address it at the end. And if you have any questions at the end, you can either write it in the chat box or you can ask me by unmuting yourself. So let's dive in. My name is Carrie McGinn. I am a physical therapist, yoga instructor, and coach in the Boston area. I am here to bring you today the power of gratitude. So a little bit about what we'll be diving into today. We'll talk about what is gratitude, what a practice looks like, some of the benefits and research, a couple different ways on getting started, a couple different practices you can infuse into your life, and a little bit about mindfulness and gratitude and how they go hand in hand. So, obviously there's a lot going on in the world currently, and I wanted to touch on that briefly. Some of this information might seem, I don't want this information to come off as only focusing on the positive and not recognizing some tough things that everyone has been through at some point in their life or over the past year. But this is a really great quote that actually a friend reminded me of that I think is really warranted for just our current time and space. So it's by David Sendelross, who is actually an American monk. It is, you cannot be grateful for all things, but you can be grateful in all things. So it's basically to say that, well, yes, sometimes things are tough and not so great. You don't have to be grateful for everything that comes into your life, but can you find gratitude within a tough situation? And we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like in a moment. So what is gratitude? It is, by definition, the quality of being thankful, readiness to show appreciation for, and to return kindness. I like to give the definition of these words that we talk about a lot because I think they can be used in a lot of different contexts. So just bringing them back to the basics can be a great place to start from. So a gratitude practice is really what we want to talk about, because we have gratitude as a concept, right? We have gratitude as something, a theory almost. But how do you make it something that is yours, a practice? So a gratitude practice is really a time, a place, a ritual you can anchor into throughout your day or week to express gratitude and to practice it. It is a practice, and it's not something that necessarily comes naturally every day. It's something that we work on every day. It can be mentally done in your head. It can be a physical written practice. It can be a spoken word practice. For every single person listening today, it will look like something slightly different. And it's something that you feel connected to and that works for you. Similar to what I just said, it's going to look different for every single person here today. It's going to look different for every single person in your household, in your family, in your friend group. And it doesn't need to be something big and scary. It can be really simple and small. It can be a long process. It could be a short process. And once again, that's really person dependent. And we'll dive into a couple of different ways to make it work best for you. So I want to dive into the benefits first, because sometimes it's nice to lead with that before we get into the nitty gritty. So for an individual, this is kind of between you and you. A gratitude practice can increase happiness and positive mood, lead to an overall more satisfied life, help people become less materialistic, less likely to experience burnout, improve physical health, improve sleep, decrease fatigue and lower cellular inflammation, improve resiliency, and encourage development of patience, humility, and wisdom. A couple of things I want to touch on here that can be really important in our current modern day and age is greater resiliency. Resiliency is our ability to handle stress and overcome stressful situations. So developing a gratitude practice can really relate nicely to resiliency and handling stressful situations, almost as a preparation. It's not saying that gratitude is going to cure a stressful situation or immediately take you from sad to happy or stressed to calm. It's preventative and it's cumulative, and it helps you get all these benefits, and it's a practice at the end of the day, something that we have to put effort into and create habits around, but it is a practice that gives us all these wonderful benefits. So some group benefits, especially if you're, in a household as a family, working with your employees, gratitude practice as a group can increase pro-social behaviors. So really positive behaviors between each other. It can strengthen relationships. Expressing gratitude towards each other can really strengthen relationships. It may help employees' effectiveness at their job. It may increase some job satisfaction, as well as facilitating helping behavior. So we'll dive into the research in a second, but some of the research really shows that the more we practice gratitude, the more willing we are to help others. The more willing we are to help others, the more willing we are to express gratitude. So it's this really nice, beautiful, instead of a negative spiral, it's a beautiful circle spiral, if you will. So I really like that it kind of works on itself, where gratitude turns into helpful behaviors, and helpful behaviors helps us facilitate gratitude in this nice back and forth relationship. So some research on gratitude. The research has proven that those who practice gratitude are happier, less depressed, overall experience significantly better mental health. It decreases negative emotions by really shifting one's attention away from the negative thoughts and emotions towards more positive emotions. And I want to touch on that a little bit. Gratitude practice is not saying that we don't experience negative emotions and that negative things don't happen to us, or we don't feel negative thoughts, but being able to anchor into a gratitude practice that works for you can help us shift away from all the negative things in life or in a day towards more positive things. So it's more of this becoming what we focus on instead of only focusing on one thing. And I like to point that out because some days are just hard. Some weeks are just hard. Some months are just hard. Things are stressful. And when I talk about gratitude, when I talk about mindfulness, I'm not trying to gloss over tough stuff. I'm trying to give you tools to help you take the tough stuff in stride and focus on positive stuff so you can accomplish everything you want in your day. So those who practice gratitude appreciate things in life, and they're really able to celebrate the present moment and positive experience, block out toxic emotions such as envy, resentment, regret, and depression, be more resilient, and strengthen social ties and self-worth. So these are really all things that are rooted in science and rooted in research. And over the past couple of years, there's been a lot more research on gratitude and the actual practice and what it can give us on a really tangible level. So I really love sharing this with others. So some helpful facts from the research that I think are great to highlight is the benefits of yes, there are benefits to sharing a gratitude practice and expressing gratitude towards others. That can be a hard place to start and can feel really vulnerable. So the benefits of a gratitude practice are not reliant on sharing your gratitude practice with others. So you can turn to your coworker or your partner or someone in your household and say, I am grateful for you. I appreciate you. But if that feels like a little too vulnerable in the moment, you can also just write down, I am grateful for, I am grateful for this coworker. I am grateful for my partner, my husband, my wife, my child. You don't necessarily have to speak it out loud, but you still get those benefits. And I find that's a really nice place to start when it's a new practice, because when something's new, it can be hard to share it with others right off the bat. Something also to note is that it doesn't happen overnight. If you just say, I am grateful for my job today, that doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily be all hunky-dory tomorrow and all perfect tomorrow. It's cumulative. So to keep going, practice a little bit of gratitude every day is going to give you a lot more benefits than just doing it once and maybe an hour-long practice. kind of leading into that, it has lasting effects on the brain. There's actually some very interesting effects on the brain that we can see in an MRI, and how it lights up different portions of our brain. And the effects of a gratitude practice are really long lasting. So if you practice gratitude for a significant amount of time, then you can really see these effects going farther into our lives, weeks, months ahead of time. And then last but not least, by practicing gratitude, you're training your brain to be more in tune with experience gratitude. So by mindfully practicing gratitude and making the commitment to practice it, you are more able to experience gratitude when you're not thinking about it. And that's kind of a little brain twister for me sometimes, but basically the more you practice it, the more you're able to experience gratitude and see experiences of appreciation in your daily life. So where to start with a gratitude practice? I'm going to have everyone, and if you have the ability to close your eyes here, I'm going to have you close your eyes. If you don't worry. And if you have a pen and paper nearby, even better. But once again, if you don't, no worries. I want everyone to pause. If you can, for a moment, close your eyes and stop what you're doing. Unless you're driving or anything like that. I don't think anyone's driving, but you never know. And I want you to take 3 deep breaths. Inhaling to fill up through your nose. Exhaling to sigh it out. Full inhales to fill up. An open mouth. One more full breath in. And then sigh it out. And without thinking too much, I want you to think or write down 3 things in this moment that you are grateful for, right here and right now. Write it out, speak it out loud, thinking in your brain. 3 things you're grateful for. Boom. And don't think too much. And just notice that. That is the number 1 place to start with a gratitude practice. Pause, breathe, and write it out. And make it simple. Start small. 3 things you're grateful for. And they can be small things. It doesn't need to be, some big sweeping gesture that someone, did for you. It could be, I'm really grateful for a nice warm cup of coffee. I'm grateful that I got to go to bed early last night. I'm grateful that I'm sitting down and have a second to breathe here. Small things really count here. So a little bit more detail on how to get started. Starting a gratitude practice is similar to starting any other habit. It takes a little bit of effort at first, but once we create a habit, it's more likely to stick. So something to keep in mind here, it takes about 21 to 30 days to create a lasting habit. It takes our bodies and minds like a little bit to get involved into the habit. So the first thing you want to do is commit to X amount of days to get started. And it doesn't really matter what that number is, but something that you can that is realistic for yourself, that you can commit to and stick with. So you might want to stop before starting, and that's totally normal. It might feel like a little bit kind of too much, and it might be overwhelming. So commit to X amount of days and just get started. I like to start with just a week or even 3 days. I'm going to start a gratitude practice for 3 days. Then you're just going to begin. Don't make it complicated. Don't make it an elaborate thing where you have to get 5 million pieces of equipment and blankets and things like that. Just start with this. I am grateful for, and start free writing whatever comes to mind. Let yourself sit with it for a moment. And it doesn't need to be perfect. It could be the silliest list you've ever made. It could be the most meaningful list you've ever made. Just start with I am grateful for, and let your brain take the rest. Let your body and mind go with it. And then writing it down. Writing holds a lot of power in itself, and it's a mindful practice in itself. I really find that writing it down makes it stick. So even if it's writing down 3 things, some people like Post-its, some people like to start a journal, some people like a scrap piece of paper that they then throw away. It's not about being able to hold on to it. It's about writing it down and seeing it tangibly. I do like to write it down in a journal and sometimes reflect on it, especially if I'm having a tough day, but you don't have to. And then feeling it. So it might not happen every day, but when you have the time and the emotional capacity, can you sit with the feeling of gratitude and kind of let it radiate throughout you, especially on those days when you're feeling really grateful for maybe a certain person or a certain experience or a certain part of your life. Can you really sit and think, wow, I am so grateful for so and so, and just let your heart kind of fill up with that emotion and truly feel what gratitude and appreciation feels like. And then another really simple kind of tip here is choose a time of day that works for you. And this is for any habit really that you want to start, whether it's gratitude or exercise or mindfulness or meditation. If your mornings are crazy hectic and you're running around in circles and you don't have time to fit in a gratitude practice, don't force yourself. Maybe you have a couple extra minutes between your morning meetings. Maybe you have 5 minutes after your lunch break, or maybe it's at the end of your day. It doesn't have to be at a certain time of your day, but it has to be a time that works best for you. And once again, that's going to look different for every person here. And then sharing with others can be really powerful. It might not be where you want to start if you're starting a new practice and you're just getting used to it. But once you get into the swing of things, it might be really nice to share with others. Speak it out loud, write a letter, kind of spread the love around. And even it's a wonder when you tell someone you're grateful for them, how much it can change their day and maybe how that permeates into their life and how you can see it light them up a little bit. And then keep going. A lot of times with a lot of things that make us feel good, we stop when we start to see results. I don't know about anyone else, but have you ever started to eat, healthier or something like that, and you're feeling really good and you're like, I'm feeling so good, let me take a cheat day. And this is nothing to say good or bad about cheat days or not cheat days, but as human beings, we have a tendency to stop when we start to see positive results. If you can keep going and let the benefits just spill over and expand. And then don't beat yourself up. We're all humans. You might miss a day. Things come up. Life gets stressful. We have a lot of other things to focus on, especially in 2020. There's a lot else on our mind. If you miss one day of your practice, it is not the end of the world. Cut yourself some slack and return to it when you can. Life gets tough, but don't make it harder by beating yourself up. So, some really simple ways to add a gratitude practice into your day-to-day life. Keeping a gratitude journal is one of my favorite things to do. It's anchors it in by writing it down. It's a piece of paper or a journal that I can go to and just write it down and then be done with it. So a daily practice to remind yourself of all the good stuff. I do every morning. I just write 3 things I'm grateful for. Some days I write more, some days I write less, but I write at least 3 things down to anchor myself in there. And then something that seems counterintuitive but can be really helpful in this practice is to remember the bad. So to really be grateful in our current state, it's helpful to remember the hard times that you once experienced, and it can be really helpful to gain perspective. So if you're having a stressful day today, you might look back and be like, wow, I've come so far in the past year. I've made so many good decisions. We can get so caught up in beating ourselves up here and now and not looking at how far we've come and not even expressing gratitude for how much work we've put into ourselves and how much work we've put into our jobs. Our tendency as humans is to focus on what we're doing wrong now instead of thinking about everything we've done right up until now. And once again, that's not to say things don't get tough and there aren't, tough times. But if you can be grateful for where you're currently at by maybe looking back on the past week or month and seeing how far you can come, it can go a really long way. And with that, don't focus on only the bad. Focus on, okay, that was a tough situation. Look how far I've come. And we'll get into that a little bit more in the next couple of slides. And then asking yourself these 3 questions. If you have a hard time thinking of things you're grateful for, you can start with, what have I received from blank? Maybe it's your job, your partner, your kids. What is, and I'll have everyone think about this. What's one thing you've received from your job? What is one thing you've received from your family? What is one thing you've received from your friends? Start there. And another question is, what have I given to my job? What have I given to my family? What have I given to my friends? And then what troubles and difficulties have I caused? And what troubles and difficulties have I helped? Once again, this is just giving perspective to see really everything you do on a day-to-day basis. And then sharing your gratitude with others. As silly as it sounds, maybe, it might be tougher now because we're not going out and about as much. But if you are going to, say, your local coffee shop or your local grocery store or whatever it is, even a simple, hey, thank you so much for that cup of coffee today. Thank you so much for a pleasant experience. Thank you for keeping us safe in your store. Saying thank you to someone and expressing gratitude can do so much for yourself and for the people around you. And then coming to your senses, this sounds really jarring, but it's more in the sense of noticing your senses. How do I feel? What do I smell? What do I taste? What do I see? What do I hear? Using your senses to create an experience. So maybe it's before bed at night. Oh, I feel so warm and cozy, and I hear, you know, my family bubbling around the house, or I hear the sound of soft music, and I can gain appreciation for what it really means to be human and to be in this experience. And then using visual reminders to trigger thoughts of gratitude. Going back to the post-its, it can be helpful to even like put on your mirror on your computer screen, I'm grateful for, or thank you. Even showing gratitude to yourself. I am so grateful that I got out of bed this morning. I am so grateful that I went for a walk. I am so grateful that I decided to fuel myself. And then similar to going into a commitment, making a vow to practice gratitude. So you're not doing this, getting to the why if you're doing this. You're committing to yourself and your practice, not because I told you to, not because your doctor told you to, not because your job told you to. Committing to gratitude because you're committing to yourself is a really important piece. And then similar, this is used a lot at times when people are feeling sad or dealing with some tough emotions, is going through the motions. So grateful emotions such as smiling, saying thank you, writing letters, even if you're not feeling particularly grateful or appreciative of certain things, going through the motions of gratitude can be really helpful to trigger the emotions of gratitude more often. So even I practice a lot, and it is harder now with everyone wearing masks, but and honestly, it's the same effect whether you can see it or not. But I'll go around even with my mask on and smile at people and say hi, or smile at people through my mask and say thank you for holding the door open or whatever it is. And even though the person can't see your smile and maybe not even be able to hear your thank you, it can go a long way for yourself. And once again, it's a practice for yourself, not for other people around you. And then thinking outside of the box. So if you want to make the most out of the opportunities given to you in your daily life, start to flex those gratitude muscles, looking creatively for new situations, circumstances. And this can be helpful when we're in a tough situation. So, whether it's like, oh my goodness, I overslept and things are crazy. It's like, you know what? No, thank you to my body for sleeping a little bit extra. I clearly needed it. Let me now kind of move on and get on with my day and be grateful that I got 5 extra minutes of sleep. So looking at tough situations from a different perspective can really flex your gratitude muscle and get you thinking in different ways. So here are some great gratitude prompts. And once again, this will be recorded, but if you want to take a little picture of this can be really helpful. So sometimes people feel that it's helpful to write things down or have little prompts to work off of, whether you write it down or not. Just looking at some of these questions can be a couple of great ways to spur some gratitude and appreciation. So my favorite one and the simplest one is, what are 3 things you're grateful for today? Also things such as, what are your 3 things you're looking forward to this week, this month, this year, especially now when our day-to-day lives are looking very similar and there's a lot of stress going on. Can you think outside a box and look into 2021? What are some things I'm grateful for this year? Who is someone you're grateful for? What is a difficult situation you're grateful for? And it might not be that you're grateful for it in the moment, but you might be looking back in retrospect. Oh, losing that job was not great, but I'm really grateful for that because it led to me to my current job right now. And then what did you learn from this grateful situation, and having the appreciation and gratitude of everything you've learned from difficult situations in life? What is challenging for you? How can it help you grow? Where can you find a little bit more gratitude in your day-to-day life, and just jotting down a list? What's something you're really good at, and having gratitude for that? I'm really good at organizing things, and I'm really grateful for that when I'm really stressed out. What's something that made you smile today? Maybe it was like a puppy on your walk, or maybe on Friday it was some fresh snow on the ground, just something simple and small. What's something you knew you learned recently? Something you're excited about that you learned? What's something that you made your life easier? Maybe even something silly like, what is a modern piece of technology that makes my life so easier? I think about like some of those funny tools in the kitchen that people come up with, like to chop core and apple easier, or fancy chopping, just knife sets and things. Like, wow, I am so grateful that because it shaved 5 minutes off my morning routine and it just made my life a little bit easier. It's small, it's simple, it's not profound, but it still is gratitude. What's something you wear that makes you feel good? Maybe your favorite sweater or your favorite shoes or your favorite pants. What's your favorite kind of weather and how does that make you feel? How excited are you when maybe your favorite weather is snow, when there's fresh snow on the ground, when you start to see the leaves fall? And then what's your favorite song? And how does it feel when your favorite song comes on the radio? Once again, these are small things that can have a profound effect. It doesn't need to be profound things to have a profound effect. Once again, if you'd like to take a picture of this with your phone or screenshot it, please feel free to. And then a little touch on mindfulness and gratitude. And I'll take you through a brief, actually mindful gratitude practice. So mindfulness is the ability to connect to the space between stimulus response, and it's really the awareness of mind, body, and space around you. So a gratitude practice in itself is a mindful practice. So a lot of people, once again, try to make gratitude and mindfulness a little bit more complicated than it is. And I just want to, put this slide in here to just kind of show you that a gratitude practice is a mindful practice, and a mindfulness practice can really be a gratitude practice. So they can go hand in hand. And by bringing awareness to your current situation and all the things you're grateful for, you're being mindful of your current situation. So just some things to think about, and some things to give yourself credit for when you're working on creating new habits. So we just have a few minutes here before I open up the floor to questions. And I want to start with a loving kindness meditation. This is one of my favorite kind of mindful, kind of next level gratitude practices. That can be really helpful if you feel like you need something external to focus on when you start this. So if it's possible, I'm going to have you just close your eyes and start to get comfortable in your breath. Find a posture that helps you remain relaxed and alert, and gently become aware of your breath. Notice the sensations of breath in the space of your heart, and bring to mind someone you love. Think of an experience when they made you feel loved, and feel their love surrounding your heart. Sense this love flowing through your heart, perhaps in rhythm with the breath. And then begin to repeat internally, may this person be happy. May this person feel loved. May this person feel happy. May this person feel loved. And then begin to sense your love toward the people you know well, your friends and family, your coworkers, your neighbors. Feeling a loving kindness flow through your heart in rhythm with your breath. And then begin to repeat, may these people be happy. May these people feel loved. May these people feel happy. May these people feel loved. Now with each breath, feel your love reaching out to include someone you find challenging. Notice any negative feelings that may arise and let them go. See if you can send kindness through your breath to this challenging person. Your compassion understands that many factors influence why this person has been difficult for you. Your compassion allows you to wish that they be truly happy and at peace. Begin to repeat to yourself, may this person be happy. May this person feel loved. May this person be happy. May this person feel loved. Now shifting your awareness to yourself, your loving and kind presence. Notice your loving kindness from the inside out, and begin to repeat to yourself, may I be happy. May I feel loved. May I be happy. May I feel loved. Feel the strength of your love flowing outward even farther to include all people. Those you love, those you know well and hardly at all. those you find difficult, and most importantly, to yourself. Sending your loving kindness out to all beings, those near and far, those born and those dying, those happy and sad. Wish that they be truly happy and at peace. Send compassion, happiness, and love with each breath to all corners of the earth. Take a deep breath in, fill all the way up, and an open mouth. Another full breath in, and exhale to let it go. And then when you're ready, open your eyes if they're not open already, and kind of reorient yourself to your current space. That is just a brief meditation that can be really nice when we're in a stuck place and we're having a hard time to find gratitude to things around us and things we want to think about. Just a simple kind of gratitude meditation, a loving kindness meditation. I'm going to pop out of my screen share and pop in so you guys can ask any questions that you'd like. If you'd like to pop it in the chats, or if you'd like to unmute yourself, please feel free to. Any questions at all are welcome. Thank you so much for joining today. Of course. Of course. Yes, thank you. You'll be given access to this by your employer group later on. It will take a little bit to process, but then they'll get it to you. Yes, and a great note. The challenge of appreciating those who challenge us can be really hard. Yes, I can show one thing again. Let me pop that up. Beautiful. There you go. The process of appreciating people that are challenged us can be really hard and really tough. It can challenge our minds a little bit. I'm going to leave this up for one more minute, but I see some chats, so I'm going to pop in there. If you need my information at all, here it is. Beautiful. Let me get back to that. Great question. So I have a question about a gratitude journal. So there are some gratitude journals. There's actually one that I think I actually found at Marshall's. It might be on Amazon. There's one that if you feel like you need more like prompts, that I really like. There's a series, and one of them is like 52 lists of gratitude, 52 lists for happiness. It's kind of a series that has basically like different lists and different journal prompts that you can fill in the blank almost if you feel like you need a little bit more guidance. I think it's just called the 52 list series. And then I personally just use a regular notebook and I just start fresh every page. And I honestly, my practice is I write down kind of every day a word I want to feel. So like calm, nourished, peaceful. And then I'll write I'm grateful for, and I'll just free flow from there. So it really is a personal preference if you need more journal prompts, or if you want a little bit more free flow. Great question. Can we share this with our own family members? I think so. Yeah, you should be able to. I don't see why not. Beautiful. Well, I still have plenty of time. I have about 10 more minutes or so. So if any questions, please feel free to ask. I am here for a little while longer. Of course. Yeah, essential oils are a great way to make meditation more effective. I think, that is all personal preference, and safety kind of is up to your own research there and the safest ways to use them. But using things like physical things to anchor us into a practice is always more effective. So whether that's like scents, some people like to burn incense, some people like to use candles, essential oils, even music, something physical and tangible, especially when we're stressed and overwhelmed. Using like a physical thing to anchor into can be really helpful to make meditations more effective. 100%. How do you do it when you're overwhelmed? That's a great question. Honestly, you just start. Even if you're overwhelmed, I would say write it down first, and kind of write it into, like, writing it down always takes me out of my monkey mind and into my body. Um, and then just starting small. You don't have to do a 25-minute gratefulness practice or meditation practice. It's small. So, especially when you're overwhelmed, you want to set realistic goals for yourself, and you want to make it something that is tangible, that you can almost like check off a list, and that is small. So, I think a lot of people get carried away with new practices, new habits, um, and it can get all too much. Like, oh, I'm going to do this, hour-long meditation and read this book and write this thing down, which once again is really great, but start small when you're overwhelmed. 3 things you're grateful for. I bet you, even on your toughest days, you can think of 3 things. And even if you don't write it down, you can think of them. I hope that helps. And if any questions, you need more clarification, just pop it in. Yeah, apps are great. Calm is great. Honestly, with most apps, it's going to sound silly, but my biggest piece of recommendation is finding someone's voice that resonates with you. There's a couple, just with audio tunes and things like that. There are some times where I'm trying a meditation and the person's voice just doesn't resonate with me, and I want to throw my phone across the room. So if you have, find something that works for you voice wise, like sound wise, and it will help you be able to focus. Calm is great. Insight Timer is great. There's a lot of new apps coming out and other things. I'm not sure if Calm's free or not, but there's a lot of free resources on YouTube. I have a couple of meditations on YouTube. You just search Carrie McGinn. A lot of people have free meditations and some podcasts. Love Your Brain is actually an organization that works with traumatic brain injury, but they have a podcast that has a meditation they release. I think they used to do it every Monday. I don't know if they're still doing it, but podcasts and YouTube has a lot of free meditations too, if you don't want to pay for an app. I do offer meditation sessions. I do virtually at the moment. There, you can see that. Just email me. Alrighty. I'm thinking of Thanksgiving and how to introduce great gratitude at the table with table full of non-believers. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. But I think 2 things I will say for non-believers, and this is something even I have learned a lot of new and different techniques over the years, and I will show my information in just a second. I've learned a lot of new techniques and things over the years, and that might seem kind of foreign to family members or friends that, even like meditation is foreign to some people that aren't used to it. So I start with always approaching it from an area of kindness. So, for example, I'll use my parents. They were never taught meditation. They were never taught, gratitude practice. They were never taught taking even rest days. So I always share it with from a, hey, this is something that's really worked for me and that's really special to me, and I really want to share it with you. And lead into it. Can you humor me for a moment and just practice this with me? I'm going to put on, this recording, or I'm going to ask you to do this thing for me. Can you humor me and give it a whirl and let me see how it feels in your body? It's as simple as that. It doesn't need to be like, oh, you need to believe in this right off the bat. I find that when people experience things in their own body, they're more likely to believe in things and more likely to understand where you're coming from versus just listing off why it's so good for them. To be completely honest, I have tried it the opposite way of being like, okay, come on, mom and dad, you have to meditate, you have to practice gratitude because X, Y, and Z. And it just comes off as kind of lecturing them and proving something to them, as opposed to be like, hey, do you want to listen to my favorite kind of gratitude practice, my favorite meditation? Especially people who are skeptics, they're more likely to believe in it when they can experience themselves. That's why I like to do a little demonstration in every lecture I give. And then another place to start is honestly asking questions. So my boyfriend is a very, very receptive to everything I do, but I started just asking him without really any intention every night, being like, hey, what's something that went well for you today? And I wasn't leading into it like, oh my gosh, here, let's try this gratitude practice. I just got curious. What's something you're really grateful for today? Or what's something I can do for you tomorrow that would be really helpful, that you'd really appreciate? Those little bits and pieces are gratitude practices that we can kind of start to infuse into other people in our lives without forcing it on them. And not saying you're trying to force it onto them, but just when people are skeptical, they can kind of put up barriers. So coming from a curiosity place and a place of, hey, it really mean a lot to me if you did this. I hope that's helpful. Let me know if it's not. Awesome. Our church just had a sermon on appreciating gratefulness for the Lord and helps us keep positive and grateful. Exactly. Spirituality can be really, of course, can be really a great way to anchor into a gratitude practice. And I think there's, a variety of different religions that practice it the same way, but having a spiritual practice can be a gratitude practice within itself, being thankful also for something outside ourselves. And I am not here to tell you what to believe in and who to believe in, but having gratitude for something outside ourselves, even if it's the universe, can go a long way, whatever you believe in. Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for sharing. Beautiful. I have time for like one or two more questions. Please throw them at me. I love answering questions. Of course. Have a wonderful day. I am grateful for all of you guys joining me today. I really appreciate all the wonderful questions and engagement and just you showing up here and listening. It's wonderful to have you all. I'm here for a couple more minutes, so feel free to ask any questions. If you have to head out, I totally understand. Have a wonderful day. You too. Take good care of yourselves today. Of course. Bye, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining me. Carrie McGinn signing off now. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.